At any stage of your life, ask this question to yourself. Do I like what I'm doing? Does it give me that mojo to get up in the morning to go to work? And the day you feel that something is amiss, I think you need to step back and ask this question to you, that what is it that I like doing? I think somewhere also what is important is the humility to learn from people who know better than you, right? Just because you're a CEO, just because you ran something, you know it all. Always be on the ground. Try to be as humble. Try to learn from people around you and see how you can make the best of any interactions that you get. Even today, when I talk to my nephew who's in the 10th standard, I always feel, what am I learning from him? What's the new thing that's happening in these children's life? Trying to be like a sponge, soaking things which are happening around. It's no longer about age and aging. It's actually about stage and staging. There are different stages in our life, right? We are young, we are head on stick, we want to do multiple things, we multitask. Suddenly the stage of life becomes that, how do I move away from that feeling of owning everything to a feeling of letting go? And it suddenly gives you a different kind of freedom in your life. I started running at the age of 55 when it was 2017. Had a great group of friends who were always there, 5:30, let's start running. So the day begins not in a mode of, I don't have anything to do, so I'm just going to sleep in, but more of something to say, hey, let's start running. Let's start meeting together. That circle of friends were not the same friends that you have possibly lived with, but they were younger, they were diverse, they came from different backgrounds. The only thing that connected us was the running. And that gave me a different high. And that also opened my mind that if I move with different genres of activity, I will meet different kinds of people. I wouldn't say it was a conscious decision, but I think that it happened willy-nilly, and then it became a kind of enjoyment that I had in life, and I pursued it. And I said, let me now find what else is going on in these spaces. And that's when a friend of mine said, Susan,
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Meru Life Podcast. This is a podcast designed specifically for active seniors, where we talk about health, finance, hobbies and lifestyle, relationships, and most importantly, about finding your purpose. This space is all about finding new possibilities after 55. I'm Mihir. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Meru Life. We are an age tech ecosystem that enables active seniors to lead an active, connected, and purposeful second innings. This is a very special episode where we'll talk about redefining the numerous possibilities your second innings can bring along. Today's guest is someone whose life journey is nothing short of inspiring. She doesn't come with a specific title or a professional tag that fits into a box. Instead, what she brings to the table is wisdom, courage, compassion, a spirit of reinvention, and the power of living with purpose. Susan is a true trailblazer in the world of healthcare communications. She has over 40 years of experience in the pharma, OTC, and medtech domains. She began her career in R&D and marketing before co-founding Sorento Healthcare in 1994. Which was India's first full-fledged healthcare advertising and communications agency. Under her leadership, Sorento became a pioneering force in the industry and was later acquired by Havas Health & You, where Susan served as managing director for Southeast Asia and the Middle East. Most recently, she has transitioned into an independent consultant and continues to shape the industry with her expertise and vision. From breaking barriers in the pharma industry and building a pioneering healthcare communications agency, to giving back through social ventures and living her own life of adventure, Susan embodies what it means to live fully, no matter your age. Susan, normally when I start podcasts, I start by welcoming the guests. But I think today the situation is slightly reversed because you've been so gracious to call the entire Meru team to your house, host us for the podcast, and feed us a sumptuous lunch. Thank you so much, Susan.
My pleasure.
Welcome to the Meru Life Podcast. I thought it'll be interesting for us to talk a little bit about how it all got started. So, Susan, it'll be great if you could take me through a little bit about how your life's been so far. Where did it start? What all you've done? It'll be really good to hear from you.
Sure. So, firstly, thank you so much. It's an honor for me to be on this podcast. And I really love the way you have created this concept called Meru Life. And it totally appeals to a person like me. It speaks to a person like me. And that's why it resonated very well that I should be very much, on this show talking about what my life has been. So just to go back to my early life, came from a very middle class family. My mother was a teacher, father was in the transport service in BST. So it was all about, education, church, having a family connect with everything, and mother being a teacher, a lot of discipline also. So the values were very strong and very grounded life, and we literally lived in a small one room kitchen. It was something that we learned how to be self sufficient with whatever we had, and that's where the early life started. There was just one thing that my parents told me, that we can give you good education. Beyond that, it's difficult for us. So then you have to kind of move ahead. So after my 12th, I wanted to be a doctor, but unfortunately couldn't make it to that. But the next best was getting into pharmacy. So I was in ICT, which is, today it's called ICT. Earlier it used to be called Udacity. It's one of the premier institutes for chemical engineering and pharmacy. So I landed up doing my pharmacy over there. Again, my father said, I can educate you up to B.Pharm, but after that you have to fend for yourself. So I said, fine. I mean, that's about it. So I loved what I did because pharmacy is close to medicine. There is knowledge that you have to get about patients, doctors, all that was there. Fortunately, I stood second in college. I got a scholarship. So I said, hey, there's an opportunity to do a master's. Why don't I do it? Because it was the totally funded master's program. So then I moved and I did my master's. And after master's, again, I could have, it was like enough for me. I said, this is it. I don't want to really go and do another PhD. And I was not that person who was so much into only doing studies. I had lots of other interests. I was on the book club. I was editorial to many things. So it was a very well-balanced life, which I had in college. A lot of fun, a lot of studying. But at the same time, had to start working. That was also the diktat, right? So I moved into production, product development, which is the natural trajectory for anyone who does in the pharmacy. Because those days, product marketing or any of the IIMs were they were not things that were told to us and we didn't know about it. Honestly, didn't know. This is way back in 1984. So while I was heading formulation development in Unichem, this was my first inflection point in my life where I got to see the world. I got a UNIDO scholarship. That was a scholarship where they select 3 people from India and like that from a lot of other countries. And we got an exposure of all the latest in pharmaceutical technology in a university called University of Ghent, based in Belgium. And it was a fully paid scholarship. So it was just like for 6 weeks. My organization was gracious enough to give me the leave and said, okay, 6 weeks, just go and come back. But it was interesting because out of all the 28 countries, they had another scholarship where they were selecting people for further studies for 6 months. And again, I got that scholarship. So I spoke to my organization, what do I do? So they said, no worries. We will also support you. Do it and come back. And this is where I think, I have been an employer, and when I see a lot of my teammates wanting to do upskill, I used to always encourage them, because if that time my organization had not supported me, I would have had my own challenges, right? So I went there, I completed another 6 months, and they were offering me a PhD from the University of Ghent. And that's when my mother said, hey, listen, enough is enough. I think you need to come back. And I was also missing home because it was really my first exposure to the world out. Right. I mean, we had every month there was a scholarship money coming, a lot more than what I expected. So I traveled to many countries within Europe. I understood what is life outside home. I understood what kind of development happens in the rest of the world and what else can we do when we are back in our country. So when I came back, I joined an organization. I mean, I was with Unichem for almost 3-4 years, and then I joined Hext, which is today called as Sanofi. So my first exposure to product development in a much more evolved manner was with Unichem and Hext. And in that course, marriage happened. I joined for a course in management from NMIMS. I couldn't complete it because while I got married, I also got a kid. And while my firstborn happened in 1989, I started feeling the 6 years of product development. Every morning, it's a very set life. You just go there, you do your R&D work, and by the end of the day, it's time to go back. There's a bus waiting for you, and you're back in the cocoon of your home. So that's the kind of life which was happening, and very well set for a married life, right? But there was something that was happening inside, and I said, I have seen who's taking my product, what's happening, who's this consumer, who are the people who are consuming. And somewhere this thing of marketing was moving in my head, that am I more kind of fit for that kind of a role? But it's not something which, one would have the courage to move out and tell people, especially your family, hey, listen, 6 years I've been here, now let me get into marketing. But I spoke to my husband, and then he said, is that what you want? Why don't you check out, go and explore. So I spoke to a couple of people whom I knew in the industry who were in marketing. So they told me that, Susan, you may have to take a dip in your salary. This is going to be a lot of traveling, and things may not be that hunky-dory the way you see it. Are you ready for it? I said, yeah, I am. And at that time, my eldest son, Charan, was just about 6 months. And,
wow.
I must tell you that my parents, my in-laws, the kind of support they gave me, whether it is sending the maid across, taking care of the child, because I used to started traveling 2 weeks in a month. But I just loved the job. I just loved meeting patients, doctors, strategizing. It was a different world. And this is another thing I always, again, tell a lot of youngsters. At any stage of your life, ask this question to yourself. Do I like what I'm doing? Does it give me that mojo to get up in the morning to go to work? And the day you feel that something is amiss, I think you need to step back and ask this question to you, that what is it that I like doing? And if I had not taken that shift from a development to marketing, I'm not very sure that I would have been in a happy place through my life, right? But those were the days when I think, it says that when you manifest something, when you think of something, the universe works in conjunction to support you. And that's exactly what happened.
Lovely.
So I was in marketing, and in a matter of 3 years, I moved from the role of a product executive to a marketing manager. Then the next kid came, So that's another thought process going in my head that, hey, listen, I have to travel so much. I have the second child coming. And more importantly, and in my job, I realized there was a huge unmet need that we were facing, that our entire communication, whether it was writing the copy, whether it was designing the visual aids, it was so dependent on what the product manager does. And we just had these random graphic artists, freelance graphic artists used to come and support us. But right from where the copy should be written, what should be the visual, was done by us. And I kept thinking to myself that this is not what we're really supposed to do. Though I had a boss who used to tell me about Ogilvy and make me read books on advertising and all that. So it kind of sparked that interest in me. So I used to try to be creative, but obviously I wasn't. And I used to depend a lot on the graphic artists, but I knew that we were not doing our best. So then I started researching this, and I realized that it was almost a $2.5 billion industry in the US.
Right.
Which means healthcare, advertising, and communication has its own domain, which was not there in a country like ours. And with so many pharma companies, we were still dependent on brand managers to write this. So I stepped out, and one of our graphic artist team, the owner, Nitin Dixit, he used to travel when we used to travel back, and he used to tell me, Susan, I think you are very cut out for something like this. Why don't you join me and let's start this healthcare advertising? I have a very small office in Goregaon. It's supposed to be the homeopathy clinic of my father, but he has one space for you and we can make more space. I said, okay. So Baba was my confidant and I was doing it. And I was very fortunate because the organization that I worked in, the marketing heads, my bosses, they had a lot of confidence in me. And they said, Susan, first, of course, they literally told me that this is not something you should be doing. You're cut out for marketing. And finally, when they saw that my resolve was strong, they said, okay, we'll find something for you also. So they kind of gave me contacts, and a very large business from Sandoz came my way. A lot of brands like Calcium Sandoz, Nutrisan, Hemos. These were the brands I started my career with. I had one peon, one person, I still remember Deepa Bala. She was a copywriter. She was actually a pharmacy graduate, but she used to write very well. So she said, Susan, can I join? I'll double up as a servicing person and a copywriter. I said, come on, let's start. So this is where the journey of my entrepreneurship and advertising career in pharma started. And my father was livid. He was like, we have never been entrepreneurs. You don't know how to do business. We've just been like, we have a profile of just being job workers. I kept telling my father, I said, what will be the worst that will happen? I'll shut shop. What will be the best that will happen? I'll continue, right? And life has to be played this game. So I don't know what it was. I cannot say that it came from any kind of an intrinsic DNA of mine that I could take risk. But I think I give a lot of credit to my husband, my family members, that I could always have that fallback mechanism, And that gave me the courage to face fear, to not be risk averse, to take calculated risk in life, and have the ability to have that vision of what is possible and because ultimately at some point of time, there is a whole team of people dependent on you, right? The employees are dependent on you. Their families are dependent on you. Your monthly salary has to be given to them. And you have to run for your business. I mean, burning the midnight oil. Sometimes I've literally sat down and gone through copious copies of client data points, strategically seeing how to drive the business. So a lot was there at stake, but one did that. And, thankfully, I also found a very good co-founder with me. She joined me from the industry because my earlier co-founder had decided to move out and start an exhibition business. So Sangeeta joined me, and in 1998, she left from another organization, had a lot of trust in me. That's another thing which I realized, that it is a game of trust, especially when you're starting something of your own. In today's day and era of startups, you have spreadsheets and you have everything written down and you have, the formula how to talk to a VC. We knew nothing of that. It was completely bootstrapped. We used our own funds, our own, monies that came in, and that inner zeal that we should be something different in this industry. And of course, like once we started, there were many more agencies that followed. And ultimately, to say that the trajectory of our business was really interesting. At some point, we had a lot of agencies who wanted to buy us. We did a JV with Ogilvy. For 3 years, I was heading their healthcare business. I learned advertising in its true sense after being with Ogilvy. And all of us knew the drill of what an advertising agency is. Once that happened, we got very specialized in consumer healthcare, in medical content and creative. So we created our own verticals. And somewhere, Sorento, that was the agency that we rechristened ourselves after 2004, it became a name by itself in the healthcare industry. Like the pharma guys knew us, clients knew us, and it just went with a sense of purpose. I don't think we were ever in that game, where do we want to be? What is our goal going to be? How are we going to reach there? But yes, there was that discipline of growing, looking at profitability, understanding the financial numbers, positioning ourselves, doing meaningful work for our clients. And with all that, finally in 2017, we got acquired by Havas. Havas Health in You is the largest healthcare network in the world. And it was interesting that they showed interest in us. They actually showed us a 5-year game plan, and it worked pretty well. We also got to do meaningful work, not just in India, but we were in charge of Southeast Asia, Middle East, and a lot of, to and fro on ideas, ways of growing. And that was an interesting phase for even our team. And like I always tell, when we were in the phase of selling out, a lot of people asked, why do you want to sell? Why do you want to give up your business? I said, I'm not giving up. And I must tell you this thing, that a business is a game which is like an infinite game, right? It's not just about one win and 1 year you do your numbers, and the second year you may or may not, and the third year you may. At the end of the day, it's a purpose that is driving you with your business.
Right.
And on this path, you will find people who will come, who will want to join hands with you, will collaborate, will lift you, will take you to a completely different orbit. You have to have that openness and open-mindedness to go with that flow, because this is not you who's playing that game. It's your team. I'm there today, but my team today, in fact, we both, Sangeeta and I, are no longer with the agency, but we are very proud that, 70, 80 people of ours is placed in, are continuing their journey, and quite a few of them are placed in other countries. They're doing some meaningful work. So it's that game that you're always playing in life, So that's been a large part of what my life has been in the last so many years.
Susan, I must say, such an inspirational journey. And we met when you were leading Sorento for the first time. I think that's when we met. But, knowing all of this, like how it started and then your work at Sorento, of course, I'm familiar with, it's just absolutely inspiring. One or two questions which kind of come to mind when I hear this, one is, of course, the fact that there seem to have been some very, very, I would say, difficult decisions that you would have had to make in this journey. For example, switching from product development to marketing, or, going from having a stable job to taking up entrepreneurship, especially when there is not like a family history of doing that, which plays a big role, or for that. And of course, very importantly, in both instances, you had very, very young kids. So you were also going through a life phase, and I can think of the fact that you deciding that sell the company to Havas. All these would have been very important and difficult decisions. What kept you going forward in these cases? How did you manage taking these decisions? And of course, all of them turned out brilliantly. So if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be very interesting.
So I qualify this in 3 parts. One is, there is a grounding value system that parents have given you. So there is faith in yourself, faith in the Almighty, faith in the people around you. And that's always been at the heart of everything that I do. I do have that self-belief that what I can do and how much I can do, there is a way in which it can move into the right direction. So one is that. Second is family. I think the kind of support that I got from the family for every stage and time of my life has been phenomenal. And a whole lot of friends and the ecosystem around you. Most of them, even when you start your own venture, you're not really advertising or you're not really going out there. But people whom you worked with, people who knew you, they had faith in you. And they know that you, being a person who will take responsibility, will be able to stand by them and drive their business challenges and problems in life.
Right.
So I think these 3, if I may say, are the pillars on which I have seen my life moving forward. And at any stage and time of my life when I felt a little diffident about something, or I felt, what am I doing? Is this going the right way? What if something goes wrong tomorrow? There are so many families which are dependent on me. This used to come handy to me. Either talking to someone or just conversing some loud thoughts about it, even to my mother, when she was alive. She was bedridden, she was arthritic patient, but she used to love having these conversations. And I used to kind of pour my heart out to her and saying, today, Mama, this happened, that
Right.
happened, or this client has suddenly ditched us, a very big loss in our business. Now what? So I think this is where the whole the way you cultivate your relationships, the way you create that circle of friends and circle of influence around you, it matters a lot. It really matters a lot.
Right.
So it is something which is already always stood in the test of time. And my second part is always about asking this question to myself, that what's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? In any situation, like even when we had acquisitions coming at our doorstep, many times we were tempted, like, oh, let us just at this point sell out. But again, we had a very good circle of advisors whom we trusted, who always wanted the best for us. And whenever we went to them, he used to ask me. In fact, there was one Mr. Ilavia. He's a very dignified, elderly person, worked as a chartered accountant and has been with a lot of mergers and acquisitions. He used to ask me this question, Susan, what if you and Sangeeta were driving this alone? What would be your scenario? Give me a 5-year scenario. Now tell me, by this acquisition, what would be the delta? And he used to make us do those maths and make us do those exercises. So I think somewhere also what is important is the humility to learn from people who know better than you. Right? I don't think just because you're a CEO, just because you ran something, you know it all. And I think this is something, again, I go back to what my parents inculcated, is always be on the ground. Try to be as humble, try to learn from people around you and see how you can make the best of any interactions that you get. So, and that's even today, when I talk to my nephew who's in the 10th standard and I ask him, so, Aiden, what's happening in your world? I always feel, what am I learning from him? What's the new thing that's happening in these children's life? So I love hanging around with youngsters. I love listening to their newness, new thoughts, new ways of thinking. So that ability to keep exploring, learning, trying to be like a sponge, soaking things which are happening around, always stands in good stead.
So, Susan, one of the things that you mentioned was that, there was, of course, you started Sorento, which was the first of its kind, full service healthcare comms agency. And you all did so well, and there were so many agencies that were courting you to acquire you and so on and so forth. But finally, of course, you chose to go with Havas. How was that experience like? How did you make that decision? And post-acquisition, how did all of that pan out?
So, Havas actually came across as a agency which was, first of all, it was the number one in the world, right? And its presence in 60 countries shows you the kind of diverse areas that they were dabbling into. And it was really one of the most comprehensive healthcare agency that one could ever come across. Very deep in its thinking, very deep in its relationship with clients. If you look at some of the marquee clients that they had, who contributed to almost 40 to 50% of their business, were like who's who in the industry type, say, companies. So that was one factor. But I think the more important factor which I liked was in the initial stage, which came across, was their culture about how they take care of the people, how they are invested in knowing people better, in giving much larger experience and expertise to the ones who can fulfill, who can take a leap from where they are. And right from beginning, we were very clear with them that what we have done in India as Sorento, we've already had enough and more experience in our country, right? And we have a team of people who can do a lot more work for the world. So our spiel to them was, how do we maximize this asset of people that we have? What is it that we can do with them better, more, and use them for global roles? And that was something which resonated also with them. So they obviously came back to us and they gave us a complete 5-year plan, shared their vision with us. And that, again, once again, it was very much in line with what we imagined our agency should be. And it started pretty well. And I must tell you this, that good part of the 3 years that we were together, it was during the COVID time. So from 19 to 21, it was right in the midst of COVID. And to me, it always was like a lifesaver, because imagine as a boutique agency trying to manage expectations of what we would have to do during COVID time, where people were operating from home. We had to take care of security, we had to take care of data, we had to take care of everything, right? And here we had the entire harvest available to us, literally managing it for us, and we totally didn't have any issues despite having such a challenging COVID time. So again, I feel it was absolutely divine intervention, that we were in the right time with Havas, got all the facilities of what Havas India had, Havas Global had. We had some amazing connects between different countries, and our people obviously were able to manage expectations and thrive in that environment. It closed well for us as owners, founders, whatever you may call us. And we were able to give our people a good landing. And today, they continue the game, the legacy, the kind of environment that we created for our people. They are, taking it ahead. So that's how I see the whole trajectory of being with Havas.
Like I've told you before, so many of these things echo so closely with our own journey in my previous company. So it's really good to hear that, Susan. So thanks. I think you've given us a entire story of your life over the last few minutes. I think it'll be interesting to turn towards the next part of the conversation, which is your life after you turn 55. So Susan, one of the things that what Meru's trying to do is, there's a popular perception that once you reach this age group, 55 to 70, people tend to slow down. That's the popular perception. But the more we speak to people, the more I speak to you, for example, I realize that this group of people is actually very, very aspirational. They want to do a lot of things. They want to achieve a lot of things, in this active senior period that they're in, right? I want to know your perception about how was it, getting into this 55 plus kind of age group. What is your thinking? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I think great question, Mihir. So I always think that it's no longer about age and aging. It's actually about stage and staging, right? There are different stages in our life, right? We are young, we are head on stick, we want to do multiple things, we multitask. And that's that stage of your life when there is that drive to achieve a lot of things, because you have to pay your EMI, you have to take care of the home. There is the drive to earn. Then there comes a bit of a drive when you're running your own business. What next? What can you? What kind of ambition you have for your career, for your business, or for your people? So you're again in that drive mode, which is there. So that stage. Suddenly the stage of life becomes that, how do I move away from that feeling of owning everything to a feeling of letting go? And it suddenly gives you a different kind of freedom in your life, right? Because if you keep holding on to it, I can tell you, life can just keep going on with a life of stresses. And I've seen a lot of my friends going through it. Even today, the moment they retire or the moment they give up, they will say, oh, now I'm doing consulting. And in the consulting, they'll do more of the same thing. They're doing more of going and meeting more clients, spending more time. I don't see a difference from what they did before and what they did now. How much ever they may say that I am now my own boss, I'm just a consultant. At the end of the day, you're still answerable. You still have a commitment. You still are involved and engaged in some kind of a business activity. And that's where I thought, I need to step back, because when I got that 1 year of non-compete, because Havas had that, diktat that once you leave, you have a 1 year non-compete where you can't have your own agency or join another organization of similar nature. I said, I'm going to take this time to think through what I want to do with my life. And I was this complete in an exploratory mode, So it was not about saying, am I 60, now what now? And, should I be doing physical? Should I do mental? None of that was the way I looked at life. I just said, hey, I've got now time. I am not answerable to so many things which I was earlier answerable to. How do I use this time which gives me joy and happiness? So I started looking at my own physical health. I said, I started running at the age of 55 when it was 2017. I started thinking that why don't I give more attention to this? Something that I'm liking, something that I'm doing. Had a great group of friends who were always there, 5:30, let's start running. So the day begins not in a mode of, oh, I don't have anything to do, so I'm just going to sleep in, but more of something to say, hey, let's start running. Let's start meeting together. And then after run, it used to be one tapri chai, one, bun maska. So that circle of friends were not the same friends that you have possibly lived with, but they were younger, they were diverse, they came from different backgrounds. The only thing that connected us was the feeling of running together. And that gave me a different high. And that also opened my mind that if I move with different genres of activity, I will meet different kinds of people. I won't meet the same kind of people that I've been meeting for the last 40 years, right? Because that would have been an easy comfort zone to be in. But I don't think I would have had this enriching life stage, which I am now enjoying. I wouldn't say it was a conscious decision, but I think that it happened willy-nilly, and then it became a kind of enjoyment that I had in life, and I pursued it. And I said, let me now find what else is going on in these spaces. And that's when a friend of mine said, Susan, you must see what the world in the ocean is. Scuba diving is a great place to be in. I said, yeah, but at this age, how long you have been doing? Oh, I've been doing it for 15 years. And of course, it was similar age profile. I said, but at my age, what do I do? I mean, will someone take me to teach scuba diving? He said, yeah, why not? We'll explore. And my daughter, who was about 27, she already had done 16, 17 dives. She was a certified diver. So she kept egging me on, saying, Mama, you have to do this, because I haven't seen older people getting certified, but you try it, why not? And then 6 of us got enrolled in a scuba diving course with one of the scuba divers. And there is this whole technical training which you have to go through. So there is theory and there is practical. Theory was okay, I learned it, I understood physics, I understood everything about the human body. Scary, but fine. And then there was 2 days of simulation at one of the swimming pools near Villaparle. That's the time when, in the parlance of Hindi, we say, Hamari sabki fat gayi. Literally. We really didn't know what is this scuba diving when you go inside the water. You're literally breathing through your mouth. You've never breathed through that organ earlier. It's always been an exhale, but you're inhaling and exhaling through your mouth. Literally, your nose is clamped, right? And the first day was a torture. Out of 6, 2 backed out. They said, nothing doing, this is not for us. And we were then 4 of us.
And what were their ages? Was everybody?
So one was about 50, the other was about 60. So a little bit in my age profile. And the other 3 who continued with me, one was 18, one was 25, and the other one was 40. So again, I became the senior most, 60 or 61, 60 that time. And the instructor told me that, Susan, you're the oldest that I have trained so far, I said, so are you like having confidence in me, or are you telling me that I'm not good for it? Saying, no, I think you should continue what you're doing. So the second day went okay, which was fine. But the real acid test is when you're going straight into the ocean. Now that was where we went to Maldives, 4 of us. And again, my husband chimed along. He was always there to encourage, and unfortunately, he didn't want to get into scuba diving. So we said, fine, let's go. And it was really the whole vast ocean in front of us. And the first day we went diving down, every time I has to pop up. So there is a concept in scuba diving where you use your breath to remain buoyant in water. So you use absolutely your breath to go down, to come up. Everything is breath control. So I did that the first day. I was finding it difficult. I was always, bit worried about whether my mask is coming out, whether I'm breathing well, whether I'm down, whether I'm up. So all this was happening. But yes, the world of fishes was enthralling. That whole ocean was a universe by itself. I have never seen something so meditative in life. So that was the attraction. And that was that kind of push and motivation that I must do this well. So I came back, and the first day I get one very long message from my instructor saying that, Susan, I appreciate that you really want to learn, you're learning, you're doing well, but I'm worried that you keep popping up, and at some point, some boat can come and chop your head off. I said, hey, this is scary, man. I literally went back again to all the YouTube videos. That night I didn't sleep. I was literally like a kid learning all the techniques. Where am I going wrong? What is it that I'm not doing right? Why am I not breathing that right way, which he told me? And I just put my heart and soul into it and saying, this time I'm going to do it well. And trust me, the next day when he saw me, he was obviously a bit in dubious mind whether this lady will pass the test, because it's he has to certify me. Without certification, it's also a problem for him if he certifies someone who's not qualified to get certified. But I just managed it, and it was a breeze for me because I internalized the challenge. I internalized where I was going wrong. I started working on my breath control. I started working on my finning. I started working on my hand movements. Everything that I had to do consciously became muscle memory for me. And that is when he literally said, what a change from where it was and where it is. And then, of course, on the third day, it was a breeze again, and I got the PADI certificate. So the point I wanted to make was that attitude to have that exploratory mind, to learn something new, to take in that challenge, because the fear is what actually puts you off, right? So I talked about two things. One is this sense of ownership, that I need to be in charge of everything, I need to own everything, I need to control everything. I first got that out of my head. Just let go. I never ever thought that, it is now Sorento and I should go back and see what they are up to. Is the business doing well? What are they up to? I never asked these questions. I said, they are doing well. I have full faith. They are in good hands. And anyway, my partner was also there. Sangeeta was there. So I knew things are going okay. I don't have to go and meddle over there and find issues. Similarly, at the family front, children were doing their own thing. One is in Singapore, one is was a doctor. So he is doing his life. Things are going okay. So that gave me a different kind of propulsion to move in a different. And the second was this whole exploration of how I can look at doing things which I've never done before. So then the concept of trekking started. Trekking was something that, did it in bits and pieces when I was working over the weekends. I had never done a big trek anytime. So when friends said, let's do Valley of Flowers and Hemkund Sahib, shall we do it? I said, yeah, let's go. I mean, why not? We'll figure it out. So they said, it's high altitude. You'll have to take Diamox and, 14,400 feet. I hope it'll all be fine. And we said, fine. Again, we were a group of around 14 of us, young to old. I think, again, we were the oldest, me and my husband. And we decided that we joined the gang. A lot of fun, not really easy, but yes, managed it. Valley of Flowers was actually a treacherous one because we were literally on boulders. And from the boulders, we had to kind of, figure out how to reach the Valley of Flowers. And finally, the next day, we had to do this 14,400 feet climb at Hemkund Sahib. It was really, really cold, and with all the mules in between. Again, I was not sure how much we would, but then it was a completely different experience once you reach that Gurudwara, dip yourself in that cold water, have a nice hot khichdi. And that's when, again, that whole joy of seeing something different. In some extent, you're also unearthing some potential, latent potential that you have. I never knew that I would be able to walk or climb so much, I remember friends telling me that, Susan, you're going for this trek, you better start climbing your floors, don't use the escalator, start doing more slopes, People do give you that feeling. It's always also saying, okay, at your age, do you think you can do it? I don't take it as a challenge, but I always take it as, let's try. At the end of the day, again, the same thing which was always my philosophy in life. What's the best that can happen? You'll reach the top. What's the worst? You may come down, or you may just wait there, hang on for some time, and decide to stay put in the camp below. And that's the way I've looked at it. And that is possibly one of the reasons we are planning more treks. And there are thought processes of doing the Everest base camp. But this year we are also looking at doing the Kilimanjaro,
Wow.
which is in Tanzania. So we hope that can be a high point in life. What happens is when you're working, your purpose of life is always that work, and at times it's your children doing well, it's about they achieving things in life, you achieving your career goals. And when you reach this stage of your life, because those purposes are already done and dusted, you have to start creating new purposes. So even when you think that you have to do a trek, it becomes a purpose. The kind of rigor that you do in your training, the kind of deep dive you do into that subject. Like I bought a book by a lady called Kate Solomon, which is about train smarter, climb higher. I've literally gone through that book like a kid. What did she do? How did she manage? Because she has done something like 22 high altitude treks. And I then make short notes out of it. On weekends when I'm running with my other friends who are also doing the trek, I give them little gyan. So they always say, what is the tip today, Susan? How do we need to do? So I'll tell them, when you're going down, don't go straight, go like this. So it's fun. Because you're learning, you're passing on, you're unlearning. That's the mojo of life. That's what keeps you going then. There is something to look forward. And I feel, unfortunately, when I see people who are aged or who are in this stage of life, a lot of why they feel very lonely or why they feel that the only thing they want to talk about is aches and pains and, unfortunate, or they may be discussing. Now, I know in the last 1 week, I have a lot of people discussing about the war. You will talk about it, but that need not become your 90% time of talk, because you may have a point of view, but you can always think about something more interesting and different. It's not that you're oblivious to it, but you can make some interesting conversation so that you can lighten the atmosphere when you're with people. So this is the way I'm seeing this stage of my life. How do I kind of live this life of purpose? Having said that, I also do look at intellectually getting involved with companies who are into technology, because I realize technology is another big leveler. You have to it is something which has democratized so many lives today, right? Again, I cannot say, at my age, I cannot learn technology. No way. I have started understanding ChatGPT at a visceral level. I've started looking at Gemini so well. The other day, I got a set of friends of mine, and I was showing them how you can use Gemini when you are editing something, or when you are getting onto a combination of Canva and Gemini together. Now, these were things which I never learned earlier. But again, started applying my mind, started understanding the whole space of how one can, at least when someone is talking about it, when someone is saying artificial intelligence, you suddenly don't think of it like some another animal from another world, but you have willingly got into that conversation, and you also trying to absorb and see how this can be used in the form and manner that it can help society today. It's all about constantly having that attitude and aptitude to learn, unlearn, and continuously adapting to what life has to give. And that's why I keep saying life has to be that infinite game. It cannot be a finite destination that, now it's 60, this is all I'll do. Now it's 70, this is all I'll do. It has to be, and I wish that I have the same attitude even when I'm 90 or 100, and I never think I will die soon, but ultimately that's what is giving you that hype to move on in life.
If someone was to ask you, what is it that they should do to cultivate this same sort of attitude, what advice would you give to them? What would be your few takeaways to them in order to be able to cultivate this attitude that you're sharing with us?
Mihir, in fact, some time back, I was invited by Dignity Foundation to have a kind of a short spiel on similar notes to their inmates. And Dignity Foundation has people right from 65 to about 80, 85. And they have their own challenges. Some have physical issues, some have cognitive issues. All that is there. And I just threw a question to them, and I always ask this question to a lot of friends at my stage of life. I said, if you were to make a choice, what would you want? And is it the same? So is independence the same as freedom? How are they different? And in many, many conversations, people come back and say, "वो तो same ही है." It is the same. If at this age of our life, we all should learn to be independent. Okay, and then if you're independent, then it's the freedom. It's the same thing. And I always tell them, I think we all should never wish to be independent, because when you say independence, it means that you are going to do everything yourself, right? And I can tell you for sure, we as a human being are always dependent on everyone else. Yeah, we are dependent on our drivers, we are dependent on our maids, we are dependent on friends, we are dependent on family. And I think that's what keeps us going, because if you had that attitude that I don't need anyone in this world, I'm alone, and that's what some of the sons and munis and all, they go in the mountain, they sit there, they wait till they get samadhi, and that's their life. But that's not what 99% of human beings will want and wish for, right? We all want to interact. We all want to have that physical dependence, cognitive dependence. I'm not saying that you are in a stage where you're completely, you become so physically ill that you wish to be independent. But I'm saying that independence will never be there. It's always going to be part of your life to be dependent on people. But what is interesting is freedom. And that is where the whole thing needs to pivot to. Freedom is the choice that you make for yourself. Do I have the freedom to choose what I want to do in life, right? Now, at that stage of your life, and that's what everyone wishes. I mean, I have my mother-in-law at 80 who's wanting to repair her own home, but she wants to make the choice of how her kitchen should be. Now, I as a daughter-in-law or her daughter cannot now go out and say, mommy, you should have the kitchen like this, because she'll say, I want to have the freedom to cook my own food, because she doesn't have any other problem. She wants to have that freedom to do the way she wants to do, using maybe the maids, using people in the environment, and serve a good meal to people who come to her house.
Right.
Now, that's where I think I would always want people to feel that learn to use resources available to you. I have seen people, the moment they retire, let me sack my driver, let me sack my maid, let me sack everything around. I just want to be alone and do everything. I think you're binding yourself even more. If you have the means, you have the resources, please continue having people around you. Please continue having that, relationship and engagement with the world around. But within that, have the freedom to choose the life you want to do. So today I have the choice. If I want to have dinner outside, or I want to call a group of friends home for dinner, I am not stuck by saying, I don't have someone to help me. How do I call them? I don't know what to do. I'll just do. Because I have someone. I am using that resource very effectively to exert my freedom of calling people home, which gives me joy. And that to me is very important. And that's the advice I always give friends and family, that learn to use these resources. Don't feel guilty about it. Continue having that life which you always wanted to have and had that. But make your choices more to what you want to do. And enjoy that phase of your life, I really find that people literally give up everything to say, abhi to na wo monthly salary nahi aa raha hai, wo nahi aa raha hai, so I need to cut this down, I need to cut that down. I think it's more a mindset. Actually, there's enough. There is more which is there. You're not taking any of that. Use it, make the best out of it, and live that life which you enjoy and you want to enjoy in life.
And it's a very empowering message that you're giving. You choose to be free and use the resources at your disposal to, facilitate that. Fantastic message, Susan. We spoke about, your first trek. We spoke about your scuba diving, how you got started. You also run. So I'd love to hear about how did you get started with running, your first half marathon and so on. Love to hear that.
So the longest, I have always been just a walker. Get up in the morning. Not that it was a very defined exercise. In fact, the days it used to rain, and for months together, my husband and I used to hardly walk. Intermittent gymming here and there. So always, because it was time was an issue.
family issues were there. So it was never a focused approach, I had a very good friend, and she's really a very, very good friend of mine from college days. And she's about 8 years older to me. And she started running. So she used to tell me those joys of running. Hey, Susan, it's so meditative. I just enjoy it. You should take up running. You should take up running. So I used to tell her, Pushpa, I just can't run. I go breathless even when I walk fast. There's something in me that is not conducive for running. So she said, it's bullshit. Never happens like that. It has to come with practice. Just start. So one day she literally got a coach right at my doorstep and said, now you use this guy and he will help you how to go about your running. The first few times when he did workouts and runs, I have fallen every time. There was no stability. There was no balance. I used to trip and fall. I had cuts on my forehead. I have bruised my hands. And it was a joke in the entire group that Susan is not fallen today. It means that something is going right. It's going wrong. So it was that kind of a journey that my running started. And I kind of thought at some point, maybe I'll give up. But I don't know what it was. Again, it was the glue of the community. It's very interesting when you are doing a sport together. Everyone else tries to see that whoever is the weakest, they want to pep them up, right? So they all were focused on me, ensuring that I don't fall, ensuring that I do my balance properly. And my coach was also very focused that my footwork, my stability was really good. And I didn't know that there were so many exercises that could help you stabilize. Like we have these running between the cones, running through ladders, running on the steps. Everywhere you're constantly trying to help your muscle to stabilize your entire body remains in a stable state, and that helped me a lot. So my first few months were bad. I thought I'll give up, but then again, like I said, it just was the group which got together and we started doing. First year when I did in fact we did a 7-kilometer run for a cause, which was Sangeeta's organization called ORDI, and we did a 7-kilometer run. That was, I think, 6 months when we were into running, and that was the first time I did a 7-kilometer run. I think the cause made me run more. So I always realized the moment I have a purpose, I do things better. So that purpose came that, there's a cause, you need to run, you can't give up. So I did the 7 kilometers. And then the confidence came. Then the whole thing started that let's get into doing 10 kilometers. Let's get into doing 21 kilometers. So we did our first half marathon with TMM. Actually, literally they have a cutoff of 3 hours. I was just like 1 minute before 3 hours. So that again was like, I thought I was just going to go beyond and it will not happen. But fortunately that happened. And that gave me again the confidence that it's not that bad. But I must admit, I was not really happy running. I used to feel that, abhi 21 kilometers, I have to do this 21 kilometers. Oh God, no. Why am I running? Whom am I satisfying this for? Am I enjoying it? And it was just being with the friends that momentum came. But at some stage of my life, it happened actually when we were doing the Satara Hill Marathon. Now, this was like after 4 or 5 half marathons.
That's a tough one, right?
They say that Satara is the toughest one. And it's not easy to get a Satara half marathon timing right. So I don't know what happened. We were about 12 of us. We actually wanted to see the Khas Plateau. That was the bigger motivation. And we said, Satara is beautiful. The rains, it's a very lovely place. It's on the mountains. The rains are, let's try. And we were practicing some slope runs that time, and we did our first Satara marathon somewhere around 2020, and 2021 that was. And I ran. I went through through the drill of walking up the mountain, but while coming down, it was really fun. And the beauty of that whole place, just enjoying the greenery, enjoying the drizzle around, everything was beautiful of that run. I know it was treacherous, but I never felt it. And then I started feeling far more that joy of running started coming up. That this is such a nice thing to do if you enjoy it. And I again came at a timing which was just below 3, because after 3 you're almost like done it very late. I did it in 2 hours, 58 minutes or 56 minutes.
That's a great time for
That was
Satara.
still great time, I know. But that actually sparked that feeling that if you can really enjoy running, you can run in so many places. Why only that whole TMM and Mumbai Marathon alone? You can go to trails, you can go anywhere and start running. And it's a meditative feeling, when you're doing that. And that was the tipping point for me,
Nice.
that I started realizing that it's a joyful sport. I enjoy it. And then I started looking at mastering it. I started seeing where was I not doing it right. Was it my breath work? Was it my footwork? I got into muscle training. I joined the gym. I started getting into strengthening my glutes, strengthening my, hamstrings and calves. So injury-free running, joyful running. I can say today, I thoroughly enjoy it. I really enjoy the fact that I can run for 2 hours or 3 hours. I haven't done a full marathon, but I know at some point I can do it. I will do it. But as of today, I have moved from something that I was asking why I am running to saying I love running. I will continue this. It's not something that I feel someone is pushing me to do. And I will possibly try to see how best I can maximize this journey of mine in the running space.
Amazing. So you actually identified that this was an area when you started out, you were not as good, but then you figured out what you had to improve and you actually went ahead and that. Really amazing. Susan, there's one more part of your life in this stage, which is organic farming. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. How did you get into it? What do you do? And so on. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was getting married, and it was an arranged marriage. So my mother and father used to always, what kind of a boy you want, I used to always say, okay, I never worried about qualifications. I don't know why it was, but I always say, I want someone who has a small house but a big garden. And I used to have lots of plants at home, and I used to have these, I used to potter around a bit. So that feel for nature, the feel for having something which is having, have a garden was always there deep down. And being a city-born, city-bred, going to Kerala, seeing that entire, verdant green territories and terrain of Kerala, my feel of going back to Kerala, though I was never born and brought up in Kerala, I used to always love going to Kerala. And fortunately, when I got married, my husband Josi's entire family was in Kerala. So we used to go to Kerala almost twice a year. Anytime, any holiday, we were in Kerala. In fact, my children have been going to Kerala alone, even by flight, from the age of 3. My son has gone from the age of 3, been with the grandparents. I used to go like a accompanied passenger. And I used to encourage that because I used to also like it. So it was always that touch with nature. And whenever I went to Kerala, I used to be with my mother-in-law, or my extended family. How do you grow ginger? What do you do? How is the rubber plantation? So I used to be in the farmland only. So somewhere it was there, but when you come back to the home in Bombay, there's no place, right? And it so happened then I spoke to my husband, and we were a little bit okay in our careers and money was also there. I said, why don't we look at some land nearby? Maybe going to Kerala is never going to be an easy option. And because my mother was bedridden, we were obviously less frequenting Kerala. We were more looking after her. So she kept saying, if there was a nice house nearby, I could have also had enjoyed the nature. And she was a botany teacher, so she knew plants very well. Any plant, she'll tell me, this is a bryophyllum, this is how it vegetates, this is how it grows. So she had that, in it, and she passed a bit of that into me also, and I started liking it a lot. So it was very unfortunate. Finally, when we got the plot of land, which was actually a farmer who was an organic farmer, and we bought that land with a small house in it, that was the same year that my mother expired. So I couldn't give her the joy of seeing this farmland, but I always thought that house, that place, that farm was because of her. And Josi, my husband, being born and brought up in Kerala, he was a thoroughbred agriculture person. He knew a lot about agriculture. My in-laws, my mother-in-law, she has green fingers. whenever she used to come, she used to also tell me a lot of things of how to grow and what can we do and how to take care of the pesticides when you use pesticides which are natural, which are organic. And we stuck to that organic thought process. We said we will not at all move away from, because remember one thing, organic is always slow, it's always small, your produce is much lesser. And the people who work with you there, the Adivasis, they want to grow things much faster, right? Because they get a lot more money out of it. So they'll always come and say, why don't we use this pesticide? Why don't we use this boosters, chemical boosters? And I have seen the difference, because when they grow anything, whether it is fruits or vegetables, everything used to be double the size. Everything used to grow very fast. And here everything is slow, everything is small. Even our watermelons will be like 1/3 the size of the watermelons which are grown with boosters. And that itself gave me such a big awakening that imagine that all this that we are consuming from the market is loaded with pesticides, loaded with fertilizers and boosters, which are all going into our body, right? And we said that particular plot of land it's about 2 acres, but we bought an additional 1 acre. So within 3 acres, we grow almost all fruits. So whether it is chickus, papayas, mangoes, jackfruit, cashew nuts, we have everything. Sitafal. Then we have a whole lot of vegetables that we grow from time to time. So whether it is bhendi, the beans, everything is there. And add to that, we have 2 cows. So we have milk, we have hen, so there is eggs. And Josi, my husband, took fancy for fish farming, so we have fish farming also. It is so self-sustained. Trust me, it became a heaven for us during COVID time. 2 years, we literally lived on the farm. People used to joke because I was that time heading Southeast Asia and Middle East. The MD of Southeast Asia and Middle East is sitting in the farm and riding the business. But it was the best years of my life.
Lovely.
And more interestingly, we had so many people who either had COVID, who couldn't move out of the house. Literally every weekend we used to have them coming home. And it was a feast because everything was homegrown. And it's interesting because when you stay there, things grow better. You're living there, right? You're living on the farm. Well, right now it is like you go there on a weekend, you have a caretaker. But if you live there, it just grows so much more than what you would have imagined. It's been a getaway for us, but more importantly, what I realized is that it connected us to a lot more on the reality of the rural part of this world, because that is where the whole Adivasi community, we connected with the schools over there, we connected with the people there, we understood what kind of lives they are going through and what is it that we can do with them. And that's where we even created a foundation called Tresorita, because a lot of what we used to get produced from there, I used to give it to a lot of cancer patients. I realized that anyone who's going through any illness, they are the ones who should not be consuming pesticide-ridden products, chemicals. And I used to literally find who needs this, because we also had rice and lentils, all that used to be there. So unpolished rice, pesticide-free rice, lentils like dal, chickpeas, everything was there. And even today, I continue to give it to people who need it the most. And of course, a lot of friends, family do take it. But very interesting, they all were always asking me, what do we do? How do I pay you for this? And I used to say, it's not a commercial deal. It's not about we getting money out of it. But we have a foundation. If you feel anytime, whatever you want to contribute, absolutely no hard and fast rule. Put the money there. We will use that to take care of the Adivasi school. So today, for the last, in fact, 4 years, we have been giving shoes, bags, uniform, notebooks to almost 500 children from the in the Adivasi school through the Tresorita Foundation. So it's been a fulfilling journey. It's something which I felt I never imagined something like that it would go into this kind of a scale and size. But there is so much you can do if you have that attitude and aptitude for something like this.
This is absolutely fantastic to hear. So organic farming started out as just organic farming, but it's led to a lot of work that you do on the social impact side. I think other than your own foundation, Susan, you also do a lot of mentoring for other NGOs as well. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I must say that for me, this has been another very, very major inflection point after I left the corporate world. Like I said, the choice was, should I become a consultant and do more of the same, or is there another opportunity for me to get into? And that is when I got acquainted with Social Venture Partners, which is SVP. SVP is a corporate philanthropic organization, which is actually where you put your money. People who join SVP have to pay and join, but that's your philanthropic money that you're putting, which is year on year a certain sum. So a corpus is built, and SVP is a global organization, but in India it was started by Govind Iyer. And today we are a group of almost 700 partners. And what is interesting is, one of the classic things that we all feel when we pay money to any donation or we donate anywhere, where is my money going? Who's using it? Is it trustworthy? Is it going in the right direction? To me, this has become the best opportunity to answer those questions, because you actually see your money being utilized for the right kind of NGO work, for mentoring them, for scaling them, because most of these NGOs are led by passionate founders, but they lack that corporate, capabilities to grow it, to drive the kind of resources, to use the resources in the right manner, to literally make it self-sufficient rather than constantly move around doing fundraising. So we actually, as a group, in fact, the way it works is you become a lead partner to different NGOs. You can attach yourself to the NGO that the cause resonates well with you, and you're with them, hand-holding them, helping them scale, helping them becoming bigger, helping them ride through their challenges. So it's almost like your own outfit, but you have the opportunity to move from that maybe to another outfit at some other point of time. And more interestingly, you are also meeting a lot of other people who have similar interest of being part of the social sector. So for me, it has been a learning where I meet people from banking sector, from IT, from agriculture backgrounds. And again, it's such a huge learning, because when you meet once a month, we have a Mumbai chapter meeting. We have 8 chapters in this country. Every city has one chapter. So Mumbai chapter, when we meet, it's a diverse cohort of people that you meet.
Right.
So again, that whole discussion and continuity of your background, your experience, soaking in what other people are doing and using that for the benefit of what the NGO guys are doing, it's been a huge, huge opportunity to grow and scale your, mind and intellectual capital also.
Amazing. Really inspirational, Susan, to hear how you've been spending your time across so many different pursuits. I think this is a great time for us to segue into the next segment, which is my favorite segment, which is called Mythbusters. The first one. After 55, your role is to slow down and step aside.
I think in one answer, definitely it's a myth when you say slow down. Like I already explained before, it has to be a life of continuity, and if I look at that whole philosophy of aging and staging, it's that stage of your life where you kind of, step aside. So I would give it like this one part to it, which is a myth. The other part is when you say it's a fact. The step aside part is a fact, because it's stepping aside from everything that you did before. Otherwise, it can just be the same continuous life in motion. So stepping aside from control, stepping aside from owning things, stepping aside from doing things which you have always done, and experiencing a new life, finding a new purpose, getting into a more meaningful second innings can be a very different way of looking at life.
Susan, the second myth I want to ask you about is that you cannot balance ambition, family, and self-care after 55.
That's absolutely a myth. this is very much possible to balance. It's just that how you prioritize it, right? Like I said, at a very young age of your life, you're ambitious, so that becomes your priority. You're also looking at, achieving many things in life. And then self-care takes a back end. As you grow older, and at that age of 55, self-care should take the maximum priority. And then, of course, your family, your ambition, everything will fall in place. Right. So it's very much possible this will always be an interplay in life. I don't think you're going to do away with either one of them. I mean, if there is no ambition, if there's no purpose, you will feel what's life worth living for. And that's what happens with a lot of older people, because sometimes, children make you feel like that. At this age, why do you want to do this? At this age, where do you want to go? And most of the time, they show it from a concern of your health, But if you are strong physically and you're strong mentally, and they know that you are pretty much capable of managing yourself, they don't play spoil sport when you have certain ambitions in life. So I think it's just a question of prioritization.
The next one is that when you're in your mid-50s, it's too late to learn or start something new.
Again, absolutely a myth. I myself have spoken about my own learning at 55 when I started marathon. 60, I learned scuba diving. And I know it may come like a little bit of a smile and laugh to everyone, but I've started learning ukulele, which is an instrument. I've never played an instrument in my life, but I love music, so I started learning ukulele. And 6 weeks back, I started learning salsa. So I'm the oldest in my class for salsa, but I think I've managed to get the steps right. My instructor says that I have a certain natural rhythm in which I'm doing it. So I'm happy doing it. And I will never stop learning. So I think it's all about mind over matter. If you have the mind, you have the joy. Again, I come back to the word joy. You enjoy what you're doing. It just takes a natural course where you start learning new things.
Okay. So that was about learning things. The next myth is about, if you haven't made your mark by your mid-50s, it's over. It's too late.
I think this is, again, something that you make the world decide about you, right? What is it about making a mark, right? If you see homemakers, what is it that they are making a mark about? They're making a mark about themselves, their children, their family. So I think it's up to us to decide what do we see as we making a mark about in our life, and don't allow the world to judge it for you. I think most of the time we are more bothered about what the world thinks about us. And the comparison. We are constant in this comparative mode. At my age, that person is doing so much better than me. At my age, someone else is far ahead in life. Or at my age, someone is earning more than me. So the moment we get into this comparative framework, it will never stop. So again, I will absolutely call it as a myth. Even if you feel you have not done enough, there is a whole life ahead where you can do better. And I can give you umpteen examples where people after 50, 55, after they have finished settling at home, they have started doing triathlons, people have started getting into completing PhD programs, trying to get into Sanskrit literatures. I mean, it's just you who has to decide what you want to create out of your life.
Physical fitness and adventure is only for the young. What do you have to say about that?
Completely a myth again. I definitely agree that yes, if you have not given attention to your physical fitness at an early stage, things get difficult later. I mean, when people have diabetes or people have chronic disorders, it does get a bit difficult for them. But if you can course correct it, if you can take charge of your life, if you can think that this is something that I can reverse with my diet, with my exercise, with my determination and will, all of that can be at a stage where you can make things happen. Unless, of course, there could be very severe injuries or accidents which have not been in your control. And once you're physically fit and you also have that mental courage and conviction, any adventure is possible, right? Again, I would go back to the word freedom of choice. It's yours to choose, to decide whether you want to do it, not to prove to the world, not to make a mark, but to give you that happiness and joy that, I could do it at this age also, you know.
Awesome. You spoke briefly about diabetes remission. In fact, one of the initiatives we are doing along with Khushbu, who's our nutritionist, subject matter expert, we are building an entire course around diabetes remission using nutrition.
Brilliant.
And
Brilliant.
she's seen hundreds and hundreds of people who are her clients go from being
dependent on medication
and so on and so forth, which in a way makes you live a restricted life. Through her course corrections actually become the diabetes goes into remission.
I'll vouch for it. I have seen my own brother-in-law. He had diabetes and he went through a nutritional course. I mean, again, my sister studied it, went through it, and today he is absolutely free from it. And very important, his confidence has come back. When you have any of these chronic illnesses, remember that it also, is a barrier to so many things you want to do in life. But again, I would say the human mind and the human will is so powerful that we use just a minuscule out of it. And if people could use that to its full potential, life can be something else than what it is.
Amazing. The last myth that I want to ask you about is, after 55, you can't keep up with technology.
Again, I feel this is absolutely a myth. It is, and I again think that it is coming from your own innate desire to keep up with times. Like I said, life has to be about learning, unlearning, and adaptability. And I practice it to the T. I could have easily said that, technology is something which I don't need to get into now. My life is done and dusted. Why do I need it? But I think it's technology which is really giving me an edge. It's actually making me even more powerful and engaged. Because I've started, like I earlier also mentioned, I started seeing AI being more of a companion rather than being something that I need to fear. And I profess it very, very strongly, even to some of our youngsters who have their own inhibitions of using AI for whatever reasons that they have. So I really feel that there is absolutely no age in saying that, I don't understand technology or I don't want to be part of it. It is again about your choice that you make, get into talking to youngsters, understanding the space. You will learn it. Why not?
So thanks, Susan. Those were the Mythbusters. There's one more question that I wanted to ask you. Now, there'd be a lot of women in their mid to late 50s, maybe in their 60s, who'll be watching this episode. Maybe they're unsure of what's next for them. What would your message be to this set of women?
Actually, I completely can resonate with this because a lot of friends in my age, at that stage and age of their life, are considering we've done a lot. Even if they're homemakers, it's suddenly an empty nest at home. If they're working, then they start feeling that they are done where they are at the epitome of their career, and the next few years can be something else, or maybe sometimes they just want to kind of take a break. And that's the time I always tell them to kind of think through what could be something which in your faculty that you can use. And here is where I want to give an example. There was a friend of mine who was in RBI, in the banking industry, very well, worked her way through a lot of hard work and managed her home, managed her in-laws, did everything right. And then there came a time when she said there was a good VRS coming, and then she said, maybe it's time for me to call it a day and take this VRS. But her concern was, what next? What do I do? What do I do with, I've done nothing but banking in my life, And that's when we had conversations and I spoke to her and I said, what, you must start looking at how you can impart your financial knowledge to so many youngsters who don't have any clue what to do with their money, right? And financial literacy is a challenge in our country because no one goes and gives it and no one takes it. It's not done in a very structured way. So she said, no, but who will listen to me? I totally know my banking world. I said, but you understand, right? You know what this is. Start with some friends, with family, with people who you are acquainted, but start giving them advice. And knowing that it's coming from you, I know it will be the best. And that's where her circle of influence improved and it went and on. And today she has almost 150 odd clients whom she is advising on how to spend their money, how to use it, how they can invest it in the right direction. And she found a purpose in life, right? So the only advice I can always tell friends at my age and stage of life is step back, think where you would like your knowledge and experience to be used, and how can that be diverted to something more meaningful, right? And most of the time when women are in that stage, they'll always say, oh, you know what, it's all a cool life, I just have to wait for my grandchildren. Most of the time they're pressurizing the children who are married to have kids. Who knows, they don't want, that's their choice. You can't make them have kids because you want some kind of time pass in life, And that is where things go awry, because it is not your kids, it's their kids. You don't have control on it, And you need to step back and say that I'm making myself useful. I am there, I'm available. I'll always be there whenever you want. But it's a life where you enjoy what you're doing. The children will continue with their life and you continue with your life, but you do it in a more meaningful way. So it's important to think through this rather than just going with the flow and saying, okay, let's see where it goes and I'll decide what happens.
Awesome. I think that's a great takeaway for all the women listening. Susan, this is a very interesting question. So I'd love to take your perspective on this. What's the one gift that your 60s have given you that your 30s or your 40s or your 50s didn't? What would that gift be?
I think if I talk about myself, it's been stress-free time. It was not that time was always an issue when you are at a younger age, right? I mean, even today, if you look at your children or you look at any people who are in their career midlife, constantly talking how time is not there. And I think that's become the biggest currency, even above money. People have money, but they don't have time. And I think if we understand this gift, if we really value this gift, you will not mess up with it. Because people get this gift when they are in this stage of their life. But they make themselves so busy doing things which sometimes are perforce thrusted on them, or they take it onto them, either having a second career or either getting into the same role of what they have done for so many years, that they don't enjoy that time. So for me, the concept is not just the time, but the time where you enjoy the small joys of life. The time when you can do what you want to do in a manner that is pleasing to you. The time that you decide that today I just want to maybe have a run and have a lovely breakfast with my best friend, that's there for you.
Right.
Which hitherto you wouldn't have that choice, because you have to run to office, or maybe you have to make your breakfast for your kids, or there is some other PTA to attend or something else to do. That is all out of the way. So that to me is the greatest gift which I feel. But I would still say it's up to you how you see it and how you value it and how you make best use of it.
Right. So this is very interesting. You mentioned have breakfast with your best friend and all that, which is, what I've heard so far is that a lot of the adventures that you go on, running, trekking, scuba diving, you've built these communities of people that you partake these activities with. Can you tell me a little bit about who are these people and how has sharing these experiences with others made this phase even more special for you?
Yeah, I think there are different genres of people. Some who are runners, either some of them are highly obsessive or they're just joyful runners. Scuba divers have a very different demeanor because they're always inside the water, constantly in a meditative state, looking at the fishes, and we're always discussing, oh, did you see that green-tailed fish? Did you see the whale? Did you see the shark? So it's a different world of how you see the fishes and the community that you see there, because maybe you're not seeing them only from India. You suddenly are in Indonesia, you're suddenly in Thailand, and you have this whole cluster of people who are coming from rest of the world. So it's not just your friends and family, but you're seeing a completely different cohort of people. And then you're connecting with them because someone will say that they had this amazing experience of scuba diving in Mexico or somewhere in the Jordan Red Sea, and suddenly your mind triggers, "Oh, this is something I need to do." So it's a different conversation, right? And then you have this whole trekking community who's constantly trying to say which altitude they went and how tough it was, and what kind of accessories they used, and how they kind of did those mountain treks at different time, and what kind of challenges they face. Some people were lost in the mountains, some people were had injuries which they went through. So at salsa class, it's a completely different genre. So it's like a hugely diverse kind of people that you're hobnobbing with. Young, some coming from a very diverse background, some intellectual, some very, very physical. They'll only talk about strength training and muscle mass, and they will identify whether you have done your MAF running, slow running. I just feel excited with the kind of conversations, you know. And to me, that's been the world which has opened up in front of me, which kind of gives me the leverage to sometimes go deep into some of these subjects also. Like, I have gone so deep on the subject of the human anatomy, on strength training for that matter. I follow some of these people on Instagram, and I will go back to my trainer and tell him that why he should train people, and especially women, to make them injury free. So it's a completely different, space that you're dealing with. Again, something that I enjoy, something that gives me happiness, something that is give and take kind of a relationship with no strings attached. Life becomes even more interesting with that.
So talking about interesting lives, I would love to know, so we are shooting this in the middle of May. I'd love for you to give everybody a little bit of a glimpse into your calendar for the next few months. Because I know you never take a break, so I want everybody else to know that as well.
I don't see it as a break, because whatever I do is in itself a break, So if you see this week itself, we were scheduled to go to Tapovan, which is 60,600 altitude trek. It was an 8-day trek. Unfortunately, because of the war and the volatile condition, we have postponed it. But that's where it started. But the moment we got to know that we are not going there, my husband and I already decided that we will do a road trip to Kerala, because we have to do something, right? It's fun, and we have anyway decided to do something. So we said, okay, let's go. Once I come back, we're going on a cruise to Norway, again with a set of friends, totally into the fjords of Norway. I've never done a cruise. This is the first time I'll be doing, so I'm quite excited to know how it's going to go. But it's about 7-8 days. Again, come back, and then we go to Leh Ladakh. It's an acclimatization, because October, we are a group of around 10 of us going to Kilimanjaro. So we all know Kilimanjaro is the highest mountain peak of Africa. A treacherous one, almost 20,000 feet. Not an easy one. Not because the trail is challenging, but more because of the acute mountain sickness, the altitude sickness that you can get. And to acclimatize for that, we are going to Leh Ladakh, so that we will know what we need to do if we are at that kind of heights, what kind of challenges our body is going to throw up, and get prepared for that. And in between, of course, I have a Satara marathon happening, and small treks we'll have here and there, just to keep the flow going.
Momentum going.
And the salsa continues, the ukulele continues, and life just is one. I don't know. I don't use the word break, because I think it's just that stage of your life where you are maximizing and enjoying that whole phase.
That is really incredible. I used to play this game when I was younger. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? So this reminds me of that. So every podcast episode, we should tell people, where is Susan at this moment?
Oh my God, that's a bit of too much.
That's really incredible. Your journey is really a masterclass in living with intention and courage and generosity. If, like, before we wrap up, could you share with us maybe the top three lessons that you want to share with people who are looking to make their second innings the best possible?
So I think like I said, my first self-talk that I did to myself was just let go. Because, we have been for 40, 45 years after school and college, a life in the corporate world or even at home has always been of a controlling one, right? We are controlling things not going awry, whether it is work, whether it is with our kids, we want them to do well, we want family to be managed well. So it's always been that you are at the anchor pole position, trying to control things, trying to make things happen. And I feel a lot of people continue with that controlling streak till they die, not knowing that, this is a lifetime game, and you need to know when to let go of it. Because the moment that you let go, your mind is free. So that's my first thing that I can talk about. The second thing is this whole spirit of being in that infinite game. I keep repeating it because I feel life is not about just winning one thing and this constant winning mode. I want to do it because I want to be on top of that mountain. No, it's just that fun. It's the journey. It's the way you learn, unlearn, adapt. So that learn, unlearn, continuous adaptation is what really makes life fun and meaningful. And third is also about the thing of having that purpose. Now, purpose has sometimes I feel it's an abused word, but purpose can be as simple as, like for me this year, my purpose is seeing that, going on that Kilimanjaro trek. So I'll do a lot of things to get me into that space. Or another side of my purpose is the NGO that I'm mentoring. Okay, they need that help from me. How can I do my best so that every interaction that I have with them, they get value from me? So it could be very diverse. But because you have those purposes, you are also doing things to drive yourself to achieve it. So have something to make you move forward, because this is the time which is your oldest, and this is also the time that you'll ever be young, that it's your youngest time and your oldest time. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The stage that you're now, how do you make that into a joyful journey? Because you've got something to keep looking forward to. And with that, of course, the rest of it follows, whether it is connections, relationships, communities, families, everything envelops around this.
Really fantastic, Susan. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us and for giving everybody watching and listening a sense of what is possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks once again for having me on this show.
To our listeners, remember, your second innings can be your most vibrant, impactful, and joyful phase. Susan can be reached out to at Susan Josi, that's at SUSANJOSI. That's her Insta handle where she shares stories of her adventures. With that, stay inspired, stay active, and keep following Meru Life for more stories and resources. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and check out merulife.com for more. Until next time, live fully, live purposefully. This is Mihir signing off from the Meru Life Podcast.